Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate with the Creative Coast. You're watching our weekly program. It's called Lunchtime Topics, where area innovators share their expertise with our entrepreneurial community. And today's guest is very special. She is an Air Force veteran, SCAD, and Howard University alum. And when she was a student back at SCAD, she actually interned with the Creative Coast a few years ago. So we know each other from then, actually. You may have seen her in the Savannah Morning News or on WSAV recently. Based on her recent endeavor, she's going to launch a coffee shop as a hub and marketplace for Black entrepreneurs and creators. She's also got crazy good marketing skills. I see her all over social media all the time doing her thing, and she's awesome. She has over 15 years of leadership experience in the industry, and she served as Howard University's School of Theater Arts marketing manager. And she's currently a diversity and marketing advisor and board member for several nonprofits, including Buy Local Savannah. But what I think most of us know her for now is she is the founder and CEO of the Culturist Union. So we're really lucky to have Elbi here to share her wisdom with us today. Thank you, Elbi, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I don't feel worthy for the introduction, but I appreciate it.
Worthy, very.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all, if that is okay. Okay. Am I sharing?
Not yet.
No.
There we go. All right, let me know if you see this. Okay, are we good?
Yes.
Awesome. And then quick question before we begin, how do I know when there's people who are trying to come in?
I'll moderate that. There should be something that pops up on the screen. It'll say admit, and okay. I'll make sure they're coming in if that's worrying you.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm Elbi, but I know that you guys all know that. So I want to get to know you guys a little bit. And since we have such a small group, I figured we could do a little icebreaker because this conversation can get a little, not tense, but a little uncomfortable sometimes. So I think it's really good for us to do an icebreaker. So let's just start with your name, the company that you represent or the school you represent, your expectations for this lunchroom topic, and then a bizarre fact about yourself. I'll go first. I am Elbi. I represent the Culturist Union. My expectation here is just to give you a little bit of the knowledge that I've accumulated over the years. I'm doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And a bizarre fact of mine is that I was once in a rap video. Nuck if you buck, to be exact. Okay. All right.
We need to watch that immediately.
Brittany, will you go?
Yeah, I'm writing that down so I can look that up later. Well, hi, I'm Brittany. I am a senior advertising and branding student at SCAD. I'm currently working on a composition project with Elbi. So I saw that she had posted this link and I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to check it out. I completed my minor in business. So, besides Elbi running this, obviously, I would love to learn anything I can as far as marketing and working in the creative industry and business as well. An interesting fact about me, I play tennis. I'm also on the SCAD tennis team here. So I guess that would be a cool, unique, I don't know if it's weird, but a fact about me. But I'm excited to be here and I'm interested can't wait to hear what you present today. So thanks.
Awesome. Hey, Risha, will you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your company, expectations, and bizarre fact about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Risha Patel, and I am with Primerica Financial Services. I'm one of their VPs. And my passion is women and children, which is why I'm here, because I'm all about empowering others to do better. And bizarre fact, listening to you, Brittany, well, I used to win disco dancing championships back in the 80s. I'm from Kenya, East Africa. So that's another bizarre fact. But yeah, I love dancing. So yeah.
That's so cool. Oh my goodness. All right, Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne.
Hey, y'all. Sorry, I need to move the screen to the other side. I'm Suzanne Hallman. I work for Georgia Southern University at the Business Innovation Group. I'm an assistant director for entrepreneurship education. So I run our student events and help to come up with programming for our clients. Expectations. I wanted to see how Elbi runs these webinars and see, what opportunities there are to partner and learn from you, because this is a topic that our university has also put kind of at the forefront for Georgia Southern to focus on. And then a bizarre fact. I don't think it's too bizarre, but some people think it's weird that I hunt and do all of the outdoorsy stuff in our family. So some of our gender roles are very traditional and some of them are not so much.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Gabby, do you want to go ahead and share with us?
Hey, I'm Gabby. My wireless is really terrible, so I'm going to try to share my video, but if I get kicked off, I apologize. I am laid off right now. Was at engineer for 15 years. My expectation of this, truly kind of a voyeur. Let's try that. Okay, I'm a voyeur. I follow Elbi and just happened to see you post, or maybe it was Creative Coast and happened to see the post and I'm excited about the coffee shop, just a central place for Black people. And that's it. And then my bizarre fact, I used to double Dutch. I used to professionally double Dutch as a kid.
I wish I knew how to double Dutch. What
is double Dutch? I'm sorry.
It's
with the jumping ropes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to hula hoop or double Dutch, so I just skipped childhood, clearly.
That's okay. We got to have lessons. We can do this.
I love that everyone's motion for double Dutch is this.
Exactly. Yeah. Not the jumper. You're right. Just always this there. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, I am so glad that each and every one of you is here today with me. We're going to go ahead and get started. I think that is really fun. All right. So I don't know what's going on with my computer. The first thing that I want us to do, and we don't have to take out any piece of paper, but I want all of you to think about what diversity, inclusion, and equity mean. And, I know that they're buzzwords right now. You can think of bulleted definitions, whatever comes to mind. And if anyone wants to share, we can just spit it out there. Do you think that they're the same? Do you think that they're different? What do you think?
So you said diversity and exclusion. Is that the difference?
Diversity, inclusion, and equity. What does each word mean to you?
So for me, diversity, I can go first. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for me, diversity just means all age, gender, backgrounds, just differences, right? Like a rainbow, if for lack of a better word, right? And everybody, being able to participate, and there not being any bars, I guess, right? That, just openness in being able to be included. And equity, I don't really know what that means in this, so I'd love to hear about that. And inclusion, I guess, just being able to, be a part and not feel an outsider.
Right. And so I know, like I said before, that these three words have been used a lot lately: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know sometimes that it can be overlapped. Sometimes people like to interchange them, but they're very different. Diversity is what I like to say, the beautiful intersection of different people from different places having different experiences. That's it. Diversity means that people are different. Inclusion means that you're different and we respect that, and we appreciate that. And then equity is you're different, we respect that, but we want to treat you fairly, and we want you to have advancement over someone who may, not be so different from you, right? And so those are the three definitions. If you can think about it, diversity is the first stop, inclusion is the second, and then equity is what we strive for. All right, but like I said, just because diversity means that you're different and you can, in your business, in your school, in your environment, you may have a diverse group of people. Are you really equitable? And equity is the approach to make sure that everyone has the same opportunities. There's this picture, and I don't know why I didn't put it on here, where, it's like, oh, diversity, and you have all these different, people, and then you have equity where the short person has like a ladder that they get to stand on. So, everybody's the same size and same height. And so what I like to say is diversity is an outcome. Like, oh man, there's a lot of different people in this company. Inclusion means that, oh, we're welcoming people. We want to make sure that they feel, safe in this space. But equity, what just happened?
It just jumped.
I know. There we go. Okay. But equity makes sure that you are constantly engaging with people to make sure that people have the opportunity to grow, to contribute to the team, and then to develop regardless of their social identities. Am I doing this, or Kate, are you? There's a ghost.
No, I'm not doing it.
Okay. I am so sorry. I don't know why this is doing that. That is weird.
It might be on auto.
How do you get it off of auto?
Go to settings real quick, the cogwheel. I can't see because the thing's in the way. Let's see.
Oh. Not have auto.
That's weird.
Don't want that. I'll just do every minute.
There you go.
I should be on a slide more than a minute, you guys, I promise. Okay. Thank you, Kate. Because,
No problem.
All right, but, and I know I use this, this sentence is completely butchered, but impact is even more better. So you want to be equitable, but you want to have impact in your company or your business more so than you want to be equitable. And the reason why is because you avoid those gaps between your leadership and your staff. If you focus on your impact, you help avoid stratification and diversity, which means that you have a bunch of, diverse individuals at the bottom of the pool and they're not being heard. You see this a lot in institutions or bigger organizations, corporations, where they hire a lot of entry-level minority, employees, but then their top and their managers or their teachers or their professors or whoever doesn't look like or share the same ethos as the people that they've hired, and so now it's an imbalance. And then there's also this plateau, because what happens is you have a bunch of people in the entry level, or you have a bunch of students, and then there's no growth for them because there's no mentorship, there's no guidance, there's no role models. And so when you're thinking about impact, I like to say it's more important for you to hire, and I'm talking about a hiring aspect just as an example, but it's more important for you to hire a diverse CEO than it is for you to hire a entry-level person, because the impact is greater. So when you're thinking about the people that you are representing and the things that you are doing in your company, you have to think about, how is this going to affect the whole, everybody in the decision-making chain. Because if you are hiring people who they're in leadership roles, then obviously their choices is going to impact the greater good versus, somebody being in an entry-level position. So and you provide a lot of inspiration with that too. I'm curious, when we're talking about impact, is there anything that's kind of going off in your head as far as, how it can relate to you personally?
I don't know about me personally, but I do know within the university setting, we have these conversations a lot in our own group So my boss is very aware and tries to make every effort to hire people from diverse backgrounds, people that look different, that think different, for the different positions that we've created here, right? And it's a very small blip because there's only like 4 or 5 of us. But if you look at the university as a whole and how we put diversity and inclusion as one of our big mainstays, one of the things that we're focused on, but then we say certain things, but then whenever we recruit, for the higher positions, whether it's deans, whether it's people to be in the cabinet, the president's cabinet or whatever, and even the president's position, right? I mean, we've gone through 5 different presidents in about 7 years. So, and each time we can say whatever we want to say, but if you don't see that reflected in those positions, then do you really believe it? And that's what kind of comes across, if you really start thinking about it. So if you think about our student body and the demographics of our student body, are our deans and are our faculty reflective of that student body? So do we really care? And that's something I think that we have to keep at the forefront. If we say we care, we need to really care.
Absolutely. And so I'm really glad you said that, because that comes to our next slide, which is taking inventory of your blind spots. A lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in companies arise just because of unconscious biases, right? Things that you don't even recognize. And so you don't even realize that different people from different backgrounds or even different generations and have different perspectives, from how they draft an email to what they wear to work, or how they give feedback, or how they speak or even pitch their ideas. And because of that, you don't put yourself in their shoes necessarily. So I have some examples for you. For instance, if there's a native Spanish speaker, how comfortable are they speaking English in common workplace areas? And is there a way that, you as a higher person or as a friend or a colleague can help that Spanish speaker feel more comfortable? For me personally, I love this example because when I was in the military, I had my son and I stopped breastfeeding when I went to work because there was no place to breastfeed my child. I had to go to a whole nother building, which was, I worked at NSA, so it was huge, so to go to the other tower was a 15-minute walk. And then you do that, every hour. Now you have a bunch of men complaining that you're not working all day. So, but they're not taking inventory of their blind spots. Or if you have a Muslim employee that feels insecure about, their daily prayer routine, how do you make someone feel not isolated or pointed out, made to feel like they're a spectacle, but how do you make them feel comfortable, right? And one of the ways to do that is to take inventory, which focus groups is a really great way. Surveys are a really great way to do that. Different types of communication styles. I've noticed in my work that what typically happens is a bunch of people get together in a room and they say, we care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tell us how we can help you. And then what happens is all of the people who are impacted by diversity, equity, and inclusion, i.e. people who are disabled, women, people of color, they start to share their horror stories. And then the, higher ups, managers, they sit back and they go, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry. And then it becomes a therapy session, and then no one actually does any of the work. And so I want to help with that process. And the way that you can do that is by paying attention to a person's age, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, physical conditions, their background, and their cultural origin. And what you do is it's called put yourself in their shoes. And so you go through an experience with that minority in the organization. You don't put them on the spot, you do it yourself. So for instance, if I was doing it, and maybe there was someone who was handicap abled, I would start my morning thinking, so I would sit here with my cup of coffee and I would go through this mental exercise in my head about how they wake up in the morning, what they would possibly have to do to, prepare to come to work, how they get to work. When they get to work, what is the process? Is there ramps that they can come through? Is there a door that they can come through? How high up is the K machine, the K cup machine to get coffee in the morning? How easy is it for them to get to their desk? How uncomfortable is this chair all day? And you start to think about all of these barriers, and it starts to make you recognize the issues that are going on in your organization and how you can possibly, do better for the next person. And most of that comes through policy change. And so when you're thinking about this exercise, you're thinking about what barriers stand in the way of people with marginalized identities. For instance, if there's a trans person, when you're waking up and you go through that exercise, how are you addressing them? Are you using the proper pronouns? Are you making sure that, their opinion is included? Are you, for instance, my biological name is Ashley, but I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I'm not called Ashley. Nobody in my family calls me Ashley. I just don't use that name. And in the article in the Savannah Morning News, they put Ashley Elbi Elm. And so now I'm getting all these emails where people are like, hi, Ashley. And I'm like losing I'm about to pull my hair out. Don't call me that. And so, it's those small little details when you go through this thought exercise, thinking about how is this negatively impacting someone. You can do it for a new mother. You can do it for a single parent. And so it's just you sitting down and going through your day-to-day as that person. And so that goes into deeper on social identity. So what social identity really is, it's a part of a person's identity that sets you apart or groups you together. And everybody has this, right? A little exercise that I like to do if we were all in a classroom is I would put you into little groups. So if you're a woman, you would come over here in a group. But if you're over 40, then you would move to this group. And if you're, if you have blonde hair, then you would come over to this group. And if you, have children, then you come over to this group. And it really lets you see that everybody has diverse backgrounds and everybody has a social, and if you drive a SUV, or a luxury car, then you go to this group. And so everybody has some sort of social economic status or religion or physical ability. And it recognizes your sources of privilege and power because everyone has some sort of privilege, right? And so through communication and conversation, we can recognize how our own social identity really influences the way that we interact with others and the biases that we maybe not even subconsciously hold. And then we can also consider the dynamics of other people's experiences, i.e. walking a day in life in their shoes. Another really good way to kind of do some internal work is to map your network connections. They say that you are the summation of your 5 closest friends. And so the way that we do this in DEI work is that we go through your emails and look at who you are giving mentorship to, who you are giving advice to, who are you texting opportunities to, who are you, calling for advice, and how, and see, is there an over-reliance on a few people or a few certain types of individuals or groups? What typically happens is you find out that you're using the same amount of people, and those people typically look like you. And it just lets you recognize that you probably should do a little bit of introspection to figure out, how can I diversify my own network? Just surveying the room, has anyone experienced this? Like where you're kind of, going through your day-to-day life and you realize like, man, I'm kind of surrounding myself with the same 5, 3 to 5 people, same ideas, same, whatever. And I really need to like change it up. I think that this happened to me when I first got into DEI work. I realized like, I was interacting with the same group of people, the same ideas, the same, socioeconomic status, the same, education level. And I was really stunting and impacting my own growth because I was, like I said, birds of a feather flock together. And there was really no value or relevant expertise that they could add to me because I already knew everything, because I've already, socially interacted with them. And so this is just a really good way to just kind of step outside of yourself. It really works well in organizations because you can start to see, especially if you're in a leadership position, you can start to see who always gets the promotions, who always gets the opportunity to pitch, who always gets the opportunity to, do the special jobs, and who are you leaving out, right? And maybe there's some things that could help diversify, the outcome of your company. All right, we just did this. All right, so not talking about EDI does not make it go away. That's another thing that I've noticed in this work is that people don't want to break down their silos, and they get really, really scared that they're going to step on toes or that they're going to offend someone. And so they pretend that it doesn't exist. They say things like, I don't see color. I don't care if you're a man, woman, a bird. I don't care as long as you do the work. You hear it all the time. And it's like, no, you very much so need to recognize the differences between the individuals that you've hired, employed, or the customers that you serve. And you need to be direct about those conversations, because if you don't, what you're going to do is you're going to create a culture, a silent culture, and it's going to eat you from the inside out. I've seen it, for instance, there was this pretty well-established nonprofit in Minnesota, and they just would refuse to talk about EDI work. Like I said, refuse to talk about it. Our team came in there. We did a whole 6-week, study, brought them ideas, suggestions. They didn't want to. And what happened was people started moving and changing jobs and changing careers and bad-mouthing the organization. And then pretty much within 2 years, the organization went away. And that's because people didn't want to foster direct conversations. I think that the best thing, my DEI director came to me and said was, how can we serve you? What would make your life easier? You can do that as a friend. Like, how can I support you? What would make your life easier? I see that, you are different from me. We have different experiences right now. We're in different points of our lives right now. What is it that you need? And how can I do that? And when you start fostering those conversations, I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, they're going to ask me a million things that I can't deliver on. But you have to recognize that people are people, and most of the time they're not going to overexert you. they're gonna ask for what they need. And it's a really opportunity to break down those communication barriers. Also, words mean things. And a lot of the times the language that people are using in their documentation is not equitable. I use this tip, like rewriting your job descriptions so that they're gender neutral, but also rewriting your job descriptions so that they're equitable. For instance, does your entry-level position really need a bachelor's degree? Or can someone without a bachelor's degree do this job with training? Does your bathroom have to have gender on the bathroom? Or is it possible that, anyone can use this bathroom? Another example is, do you have to use the words she, he, or her? Or can you use, team, or they, so that no one feels excluded? All right, and then another good opportunity is to this is all about auditing, obviously, but who has access to on-the-job training and learning and key assignments? Who's tapped in? Who's receiving coaching and mentorship? This kind of goes back to what I said about taking a network map and making sure that you are giving opportunities to everyone that's involved in your circle or in your workforce. And then a key thing that, Suzanne pointed about earlier was evaluate from the top down. How diverse is your executive team? I think that this is probably the most important, because when you have a diverse executive team, and we're not talking just race, we're talking about gender, and we're talking about culturally, and we're talking about, ability. If your executive team is not diverse, then you're not going to hire diverse people. Then when your customers come in, you're not going to serve, people who don't look like you the same way that you would someone who does. And then your partners and your stakeholders are going to be embarrassed because they are going to get called out. It's 2021 and we're in this phase where everyone is calling people out. And it's a good thing because it makes people evaluate what's going on. So if your executive team, if your leadership board is not diverse, then that is probably the one place that I would start. All right. So I've been talking a lot. I think we should have a little bit of fun again. I will start this. It's a thought exercise. It's like share a story behind your name, who gave you that name, the origin, and what you feel about your name. The intention and purpose behind this exercise is to recognize that everyone has a story, and that, and this came from this problem that was happening where 75% of employees were, or potential employees were not being hired because of their name, right? African-American sounding names were not being hired the same way that white sounding names. Another way to change that is to do blind hires, where you take off their name, gender, and age when you're looking at their resume. So that's a really good way to do that. And that way you're actually basing people off of their experience than off of what your perception of them is. So I'll tell you mine. Like I said, my biological name is Ashley. My grandmother named me that after her favorite soap opera, General Hospital. But my name Elbi came from my great grandmother. It was a mix between her two favorite sisters, Bibi and Eleanor. And so she said that I reminded her of that. And so that's how I got the name Elbi. And I've been using that my whole life. So my great grandmother gave me the name that I love. Like I said, it came from two of her sisters, and I like that name more. I think Ashley is so just, Ashley, And then the fact that my grandmother got it from General Hospital just kind of makes me roll my eyes. But I'm curious how, the story behind your name, if you are willing to share.
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
I don't really know what the origin would be. I've always gotten the story of my dad was last stationed up in Seattle at Fort Lewis, and I guess there was a girl that used to work at the grocery store my parents always went to, and her name was Brittany. So I guess they really like the name, and that's how I became Brittany. I guess I like that it's spelled with 2 T's and then A and Y. I think it's a little bit more unique. I think around the 98, 99 time, it was a fairly popular name, but I like it. I don't really know what else I would see myself as, but yeah.
They must really like her. Like, she must have given them excellent customer service.
I know. I was curious. I was like, wow, really? I mean, it's kind of cool. I'm also like, there must be some, like, I don't know what she did, but I guess it would be funny to somehow find her in real life. Be like, hey, by the way, your customer service was so great that my parents actually named me after you. So, yeah.
That is awesome. Anyone else want to share?
I can go.
Yeah.
My name's Alasia, and my mom always tells me the story of how she named me. She loved the name Elijah, but wanted all her kids to have A names. So she spelled it Alijah, but then she was like, well, people are still going to say Elijah. So she popped in an A and was just like, oh, now it's spelled phonetically. So people will call you Alasia, but people still call me Elijah. My name is very unique, and I don't know anyone else with it. So
I don't know anyone else with it too. And I love it.
Thank
you. I love it. Anyone else?
So my name is Urvashi. I go by Risha because I was born and brought up in Kenya, East Africa. So they couldn't really pronounce it. They would say Uruvesh, and I hated it because Urvesh is a boy's name. But anyway, Urvashi, so she's supposed to be one of the 2 Apsara. Apsara is, I guess, if you translate it, it's kind of like fairy dancer in the court of the king of the gods, which is Indra, the rain god, according to our Indian mythology. And so I love dancing. So, hey, it fits me perfectly, right? So I love my name. I didn't like it when I was little, when they mispronounced it, like, Elijah just said, right? But I love it now. And my aunt gave it to me. So in our community, your dad's sister gives you your name. So your parents don't choose your name. But saying that, when I was pregnant with my first child, I'm like, heck no, it's my child. This is my child. I'm going to name it. It's going to be a girl because I'm a woman. And, Indians and boys, it's going to be a girl. And her name is Ekta, which means togetherness, united as one. But anyway, so I named mine, but my aunt gave me my name. So yeah, love it.
Oh, that is cool. Well, I need to call my brothers and be like, listen, your next kid, I'm naming, because that is so cool.
Yeah, and you actually have to give them a gift because they name your child.
And I get a gift. Oh, see, I'm in the wrong culture. That is awesome.
Thank you.
All right. And then I like to tell people this because I think, like I said, it's 2021 and diversity, equity, inclusion has been these big buzzwords, right? But what does it really mean? Diversity actually gets you paid. It actually makes you money, because the more diverse you are, the more opportunities you have for profitability and value creation, because you have more people coming in with their ideas, their creativity, their cultural backgrounds, their knowledge, their education. And when you combine all of that, you have a greater opportunity to make better impact, which helps with better financial performance. Companies in the 4th quartile for ethnic diversity were 33% more above average profitability. Google actually recognized this in like 2007, right? They were getting called out because they were not, straight from the top down, it was just white men, right? Silicon Valley, typical tech company, just white, I guess elder millennial now, white, bro, vibe, white men. And they were losing money because they were not, their search criteria wasn't popping up to be very equitable. The way that they were formatting their web development, the way that they were formatting their search guides, the way that they were doing their AdWords, all of them came from their perspective. And so it was at a crucial point between Yahoo and Google, where Google was not going to be the top tier because they were not equitable. And so they did a whole survey, whole DEI survey, got reamed. I mean, reamed. And then they changed it around. And now Google is Google, obviously. And they've done a lot of, impact reporting. And it also raised their share profits, I want to say by 42%. Don't quote me on that, but it's high. Like their share profits skyrocketed. Because diversity and inclusion as a business imperative will help you, first of all, it will help you with your reputation, which means that you're going to have more opportunities to garner customers and market better and more truthful. And you're going to be able to, like I said, make more impactful decisions, which will increase your value creation, which will increase your profitability. So I have a couple of tips for people, especially people who have their own businesses or eventually want to have their own businesses. You always need to make sure that your policies or you're creating new policies that are system-wide, from recruitment to performance evaluations to promotions. And if you have policies, do an amendment to them. Sit down with a group of people or hire it out and have them, go through your language, go through, your policies and make sure that they are equitable and that they are representing who you actually want to be. Also, engage with your clients. Like I said, avoiding EDI work does not make it go away. Go to your clients, your customers, your donors, civic leaders around your community and say, how can we serve you? How can we serve our company? How can we be better, a better company for you? And most of the time they will tell you, right? You don't have to think about it and figure it out. People will tell you very plainly what they want. Also, think about your workplace flexibility. One of the things that I said when we were talking about walking a mile in someone's shoes, I have a really beautiful story about a local business here. About 2 or 3 years ago, she had a staff of all women. And it's a PR firm here in Savannah. And slowly but surely, those women started getting married and having babies. And she realized that they were, they had to come to this office and they had to be there at 8 o'clock and but everybody was running late sometimes, or somebody had to call off sick all the time. And so this staff of 5, most of the time would just be her and maybe one other person, or just her alone. And so she had to really sit down and think, okay, well, I have this overhead in my workspace. I'm not helping my employees. What can I do? And so she decided to get rid of the office space and let people work from home, because she realized that they could get more work done. They have a flexible schedule. She had a standing Monday, Wednesday, or Friday lunch lunch, Zoom, or, conference call. And she was able to accommodate those people. And if they needed to meet together, they would rent out a restaurant, little back room, and they would get together and they would work on a project if they needed to. But being able to have flexibility, but I don't think that would have happened if she didn't sit down and actually recognize what the issues are. And that means that you have to have communication with the people that you work with. Also, regularly ask for feedback. This isn't just a one size, one sweep, and we're done sort of thing. You have to make sure that there's transparency. So monthly conversations, weekly conversations if need be, to make sure that everyone is feeling okay, everybody is comfortable, and that there's multiple ways of getting this information out. Like I said, doing blind surveys, doing sit down luncheons, having a D&I team come in and do this work for you. There's so many different ways, because there's so many different companies, that there's not a one size fits all approach. You have to attack this in multiple ways, and it's not going to get done in a day or a month or a year. This is a time commitment to build those skills, right? Because I have biases, you have biases, and you have to work to eliminate those biases, right? I can tell you that when I see a really old lady get in her car, I'm like, I need to drive in front of her because I'm going to be late. That's a bias. That is a real bias, because who's to say she's not a speed demon? But and so it takes a minute. And I say that because I can speak personally that it takes a while for you to eliminate those biases and to feel okay and comfortable talking about them, sharing them, and then, creating a game plan to eliminate it. And I love to say, be Biden. Biden last week came out and said that if anybody was rude on their staff, they were getting fired. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to set clear expectations for inclusion in your life, and then also in your workplace. People like to call them boundaries. If you say, I'm not going to tolerate, or I'm not going to deal with anyone who is, sexist, racist, homophobic, genderphobic, etc., and then someone violates those, you can't say, oh, well, maybe they didn't mean it like that. No, there has to be a very clear and set and direct expectation, and then, action, call to action, for everyone to feel like you really are true to this work and that you want to do it, right? Because if not, then people are not going to feel comfortable and vulnerable enough to tell you when there's issues arise, and they're just probably going to, one, not be your friend anymore, or two, not be your employee or colleague anymore.